the reason I'm on stage today, when I'm all about culture and how to fix banks from the inside out, when we're talking about a topic that's so technology-driven, such as cybersecurity, is because we're building that bridge between how do you get the right technology to make sure that you have the foundation of being a secure type of platform for all these experiences to happen, if you don't have kind of the right people and the right understanding of knowledge and the right understanding of what type of courage it takes to get the security in place, and also how do you get passion in your employees that are going to deliver something as dry as a secure future for digital.
Welcome to 2030. The world has experienced extraordinary change over the past decade. The internet is no longer just about the smartphones and laptops. It's actually about connecting previously unconnected devices. It's also about understanding that in 2030 we have 7.5 billion people online now, so that's 90% of the world's population. We have 125 billion connected devices, and they are all around us. They're in our offices, they're in our smart homes, they're the appliances that we use, they're the things that we wear, the clothes that we wear. Sometimes they're even embedded into our bodies. These devices are smart, which means they collect, process, and transmit data. We get from A to B in autonomous cars that we summon up from a pool. Smart medical devices are performing remote surgeries. They are making recommendations in terms of prescriptions. They are diagnosing illnesses. They are uploading real-time information and data to hospitals. We also are using devices that are providing multi-sensory experiences through AR and VR. Everything moves through the cloud, so all of the world's data is moving through it and being stored in it. AI, machine learning, robots, bots, drones, etc. have taken over many of the jobs that we once did a decade ago. In fact, in 2030, 85% of the jobs that we do now hadn't even been created in 2018. Technology rules our lives. We are totally and utterly dependent on it. It instructs us, it analyzes us, and monitors us so that we can make better decisions and live better lives. How did we get here? Well, that's what this talk is all about. The threat actors are still around, just as the night follows the day. But what we have is we have risk that is better understood, we have security that is more integrated, and we have lower impacts in terms of the risks. So let's look at what things look like today in 2018. We have organized crime. So organized crime is worth about $600 billion US. Cyber criminals follow the money trail. We have these huge hacker industrial complexes that have been set up. They're popping up in Brazil, India, North Korea, and Vietnam. These are professionally run organizations with borderless territories. They're diverse. The only thing that matters is performance. We have malware that is being distributed, 360,000 every single day. And ransomware is still growing, although cryptocurrency mining is taking over in popularity. In terms of ransomware, 4,000 people are still being affected as victims every single day. We have the harvesting of data that's going on. So Facebook and Cambridge Analytica hit the press earlier this year when they were caught harvesting personal data and using it in campaigns. The Trump campaign and Brexit are well known. And then we have an increase in bot attacks. So the most famous was the Mirai attack, where we saw a distributed denial of service, a DDoS attack, where 380,000 digital cameras and routers were used to bring down parts of the internet. What we need to do is to really look at cyber and understand how it has transformed. So cyber today is not just a target, it is a weapon and an attack vector. It is capable of disruption and destruction. It also, our adversaries also have an asymmetric advantage over us in cyberspace, with a fence being structurally dominant. They only have to find one way in, and they only have to be right one time. Our job is very different. Our job is to mitigate risk. In fact, to secure 95% of the environment, our budgets would have to increase 9 times. That's not going to happen. Risks come from the usual suspects. They come from cybercriminals, hacktivists or activists, and also state-sponsored attackers and spies. But they also come from legislation and regulation. Societal responses to immigration challenges, to the way that we work, the way that we're being educated, trade liberalization, and also the way that we are interacting internationally with regards to cyber conflict are going to challenge how we work and operate in cyberspace, both as developed and as emerging countries. That's why we have to mix and integrate with the lawmakers, and that's why laws must balance, enable, and advance cybersecurity. It's why cybersecurity has to be built into the fabric of our world. It's why we must look at this as being more than an individual, an organization, or a country. Cybersecurity is a way of being. So that's why we have to tackle the people element first and really focus on that, particularly women, and also the skill of leadership. If you want to further enable and develop the team, you can put in programs like this. These create the wow factor. And this is where really you're looking at what is it that you do, what is security, or if you're putting this across engineering services, it might be risk, tech, data, and security. What is it that each department does? Where are the skills? What skills do you need? What capability do you need? And then you're putting in around this career conversations, and you're putting in around training, whatever training you need, whether it's hard skills training or soft skills training. And wrapped around this, you have mentoring, and you have coaching, and you have sponsoring, and they're all very different, but it is a program, and it allows employees to traverse through the company and have a career map, which means that they stay within the company for much longer, and you retain the talent, rather than having this dependency on contractors and an exiting or depletion of talent. In security, we have a big tendency, I mentioned it before, to rely on technology. We've used it as a silver bullet to really try and thwart cyber attacks and also compliance failures. We've used people to implement processes and the technologies, but we've made a fundamental error. We have recruited in our own shadow. We've got people like us. They're easy. They fit in to the culture. But we need people who aren't just in the military or intelligence or from STEM backgrounds. We need people who are different to us, because that enables us not to be blindsided. Now, it also enables us to work in a more creative manner. And Winston Churchill knew this, one of the greatest leaders of all times. And when we, as allies, faced an issue during the Second World War where there was a stalemate situation, what he did was he applied corkscrew thinking. So he brought together about 8,000 women and 2,000 men from many different backgrounds. They were code breakers, they were mathematicians, chess players, chess champions, they were linguists, from a variety of different backgrounds. Some were school leavers, some were from university. Some just could do crossword puzzles. We had people like Sir Ian Fleming, who wrote the Bond books. We had Alan Turing, who was autistic and gay. This environment at Bletchley Park helped us to shorten the war by 2 or 3 years. We need an approach like this, and that's why it's really massively important. Women play a fundamental part in this, and this is why I wrote my book, Insecurity, why a failure to attract and retain women in cybersecurity is making us all less safe. Women in business are good for business. There is more productivity, more innovation, we stay on schedule and within budgets, much more than compared to homogeneous teams. Women also are great at increasing the skills businesses need to transform us into that world of 2030 that I just described. And the collective intelligence of a group, interestingly, increases when the percentage of women increases. When we look at all of these things, we have to look at change. Change is very natural. Nature is change, but change is also hard. And what I've brought, the reason I brought the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's change curve into this presentation is because there is a process to change. Now, she developed this in the 1960s when she was looking at the grieving process, but many organizations have used it to look at change when there is rapid change and to understand it. But what's interesting is that when we actually create these high challenge, high support environments, the dip in the change curve is hardly there. So it means that we can achieve this faster and with less impact.
What is it that kind of the other side has that bankers could increase so that they can get to the same, they can level the playing field? And I hear you say it's about developing people, and of course we understand what that is. It's a complex topic, of course. And you're right that it needs to be in a way sustained by the way we understand psychological safety and increased entrepreneurship and so on. But isn't it the fact that individually, any of the bankers that are working in cybersecurity could be a very successful hacker, except that now they like the forces of good instead of the forces of evil? And is there a way that the organization can remove itself from standing in the way of these people and let them do the right battle?
That's a really good question. The only way is through the leaders, so it's only by supporting them. So they can't remove themselves from it, but we have to be on the journey together. And that's why I say in an organization, it's about going and having those conversations and making sure that the awareness is spread, but not treating people. So in security, we have this, there are phrases, you can't fix stupid, people are the weakest link, and things like that, where to me, that's so backward. People are our shield, our greatest strength. And if we expect them to behave like idiots and that they operate in that way, then we're only encouraging it to happen. So we have to change our view of people, and we have to go out there and make sure that these things are working. And I think be more open, create more awareness, and also measure it, but make sure that we are measuring the right metrics. So which we can do, and it might require us to come together and do workshops and things like that, to actually look at, well, what is our objective? What is possible? Because, say, with the hackers and the cyber criminals and the threat actors out there, their job is so much more freer than ours. We have legislation, regulations. We have our company policies and politics to navigate around. We have budgets, resource issues. So it's very, very different. So it is a case of when we are out there talking to some of the senior stakeholders, really ensuring that they understand what we are actually capable of doing.
If you could leave the CEO of the biggest bank you can think of with one heartfelt advice you'd give them down the pub, what would you tell them to do so that they get and keep the best cybersecurity experts they can get?
Go and speak to the CSOs or CISOs to have that dialogue and have it, let it be open, let it be safe, and have a dialogue with them and find out what their challenges are, what their blocks are, and how you can help them. That's what I would say, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so very much, Jane.